was originally going to put RZR seats in the Jeep Comanche, but after buying them and putting them in and getting them adjusted to where my feet would reach the pedals and my hands would reach the steering wheel and everything, I realized that they fit well in the Jeep, but it's because the Jeep is very small and the seats are quite small. And to prove my point, you may think that I'm sitting on a stool, but actually... So, quick change of plans, because this is just gonna work for me. I weigh 280 pounds. Enter! Sand limo seats. Well, this is more like it. This is a suspension seat. Actually, I think this is wider, custom ordered. I bought these used for about the same price as I bought the RZR seats, so I think these will be just fine. But we have a problem. Now, if you've ever owned a Jeep Comanche, you already know where I'm going with this, because you've got this huge transfer case hump that sticks out in the way. And if you've ever tried to put an aftermarket seat, you know that it's just gonna hit that, and your seat's gonna be sitting super high, and you ain't got nowhere for your head to go. I sit a little tall, and I need about 42 or 43 inches from the bottom of the seat to the top of the ceiling. So, to solve this problem, what I'm gonna have to do is take this seat apart all the way down to the frame and see if I can modify it to fit, and then hope that all the padding and fabric and everything goes back onto the frame, doesn't take away from the comfort of the seat itself. So without further ado, so now that I've got this down to the frame, we can kind of set it back in there and see where exactly we're hitting on these corners. Alright, so put this sort of in here. No, that's about where I want to sit. It looks like this little corner on the bottom, because it has a tab, the tab's hitting first. This has about that much padding on it, and so it needs to be brought almost all the way down to where the back of this is close to the floor. So let's take a look at this corner. You kind of see already that the outer cover of the seat is stretched around the bottom cushion by this lower bar, and in addition to that, the suspension material underneath that also kind of wraps around and kind of holds everything together. So maybe when I modify this, if I was to cut back to a certain point and just carve this corner out, then I could still have all this support for the suspension and the seat to wrap around. And because this has a string going through it, maybe it'll still pull it tight, as long as my upper bar in the seat frame is still good. As far as the front goes, it also wraps around, but instead of having a Velcro piece where this Velcro needs to be in a specific spot, these have eyelets that get pulled. And so if this bar is modified a little bit, this can still pull and tighten up the bottom of the seat. Keep in mind, you also have these suspension straps that are holding everything together. So maybe what needs to happen is because this is already taller just a little bit, that's going to give me at least 2 inches. We could try and figure out how many inches down we need to go. We can already know that we're going to cut this part out, bend this tube right here somewhere around here, and bring that back down to weld into here somewhere. The question is that going to be enough? So if we take the foam, that this needs to clear the foam. It doesn't have to clear the foam, but it would be nice because you don't want this corner pressing into your leg when you're sitting there. You can see that there's quite a big gap right here between the frame and the cushion. If I was to cut it down here like I want, I could have no problem making a piece that goes from this bar to here. The only concern that I would have then is making the piece that goes from this area down to here and not crushing this foam. I could, however, carve the foam out just a little bit. I think what we need to do first is make the cuts that I need to, and then see if it clears the transfer case hump inside there. So I put a brick in here just to hold it, and this is right about center of the steering wheel, and already it is looking much better. Try it with foam in there. Put a piece of foam on there, and we'll measure the distance between the bottom of the seat and the top of the roof. And we're about 37 inches. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Typically, to have enough headroom, I like to have about 40 inches. So if I could get 2 or 2.5 more inches out of this, I'd be happy. I think what we're going to have to do is bend this right about here and then chop this piece. We'll do this, chop this here, and we'll make a piece that goes across. Here's a bit of good news and a testament to why you should really throw scrap metal away, because I found this metal bar in my little scrap pile of metal, which is the perfect size for inside of these metal tubes. So if I need to extend this metal tube or this metal tube, I can simply weld this into it and move it out to where it needs to be. So that's good. Case in point, I just chopped this piece off and these two pieces line up, but this one needs to be extended and bent over. So it needs to bend straight up, and I can take this bar and put it inside there so that it bends where I need it to be, and I take this extension, slide it over that, pull that sucker over. When I'm ready to, I can tack all these up together, mount it in there. All right, if we come back in here, set this down, brick a little bit. Actually, the brick is too tall now, so that's a good sign. I kind of want to unbend this bend and bend it a little more here, so I'll be right back. All right. That is much better. Let's see if that gives us 2 inches that I needed. I need 40 inches. We're at 39. Perfect scenario would be to get 1 more inch out of this. And I think that, see, the problem I'm having now is I need this bar to be parallel, but it's not going to be, so we're going to have to figure out that later. Let me do 1 more bend. 2 more bends. So this bar follows the curvature of this tunnel here, and that's exactly what we needed. So with all that, let's put this cushion back in 1 more time. There it is, 40 inches. So you can see, I think that this seat cushion is going to be fine. We're going to cut a little bit out of this corner, connect these 2 pieces, and then weld all this together. Suspension will still wrap around. I don't think that anything's going to sink or fold or dig into any legs or nothing. So time to get that all welded up, and then before we can put these seats back together, we need to figure out how we're going to mount this into the Jeep. You can see how much of a difference this side is and this side now, and it's like crazy how much clearance you can get just by modifying it just a little bit. But hopefully that should help it. Okay, so now I've taken the mount off of the RZR. I've cut the original Comanche mounts off of this aftermarket RZR mount, and I put the Jeep Comanche mounts back into the Jeep Comanche. So now I'm going to take the metal frame from the new seats that I want to put in, and I'm going to mock them up and then figure out a way to weld them to these old style brackets. Alright folks, well, looking at this has made me realize there's a fatal flaw with using the original Jeep Comanche mounts to mount a aftermarket seat this size, and that is this bolt right here is going to be super hard to get to. You have to remove a bunch of stuff and have 2 elbows to get down there just to install this thing once it's together. Additionally, like, because this rear mount is so far forward, this whole seat has a fulcrum, which if you have a lot of weight in the back, so let's say you're ascending up a hill, all your weight is in the back, and it's just going to push all the weight onto this rear mount and pull up on the front mount. Although this is a great design for a bench seat in a truck that's just going to drive around the farm, I may just remove these brackets, and I will mount each corner of the seat to the inside of the body using some tabs and also some reinforcement plates. So I was kind of curious to see how much headroom I have, and I've got about 5 inches of headroom. I think maybe I need to remeasure how far the seat needs to be from the ceiling, but it worked out good because it gives me a little bit of room to play with, where if I need to mount it an inch or 2 higher, I can. But I really kind of like where I'm sitting right now. My feet reaching the pedals. The seat is super comfortable. I may want to lean it back just a little bit, so that I'm far enough away from the window, but this is working out great. I can even adjust everything. I can see all the gauges from here, even the farthest gauge. Believe it or not, the seat is actually sitting lower than the RZR seats that were in here, and they were a whole lot smaller. I'm super excited. Tune in next week. I'll get these mounted in here. When I bought these seats, I was really worried they wouldn't fit. Anyway, if you like these videos and you want to see more, just consider subscribing. And don't forget to ring that notification bell. Who welded this?